Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, we're back with the episode we were going to have a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we're re-recording the intro for the episode we thought we were going to have 2 weeks ago, but instead we did our own version of this same topic 2 weeks ago, which is about quitting things, especially quitting things much sooner than is quote unquote allowed.
That's the intro to this conversation, but I actually haven't had the conversation yet, so we'll see where it goes. But the intention is that, yes, it's sparked by a decision to start a job and quit a job all within 3 months. But what it's really about is, how do you trust your gut when your gut is telling you to do one thing and then 3 months later it's telling you to do something else?
Mm-hmm.
And Brit's experience with that, because I know she's been on that roller coaster actually multiple times now this year. Maybe she'll get into that. I don't know. But I think that it's a very important thing for all of us to hear and be inspired by, because, again, no expectations for the rest of 2020. I think Brit has really embodied that this year.
Yes. Very in a lot of ways in her personal life that we know of that she can share or not.
Yeah, I mean, not.
But I want to remind everyone, this is not Brit's first time on our podcast.
No, we had her back a year and a half ago. Well, we had her on the first time a year and a half ago. She actually interviewed us. It was like the year anniversary of the podcast. It was April 2019. And so we had her on to interview us. And maybe I'll put that in the show notes so that you guys can hear that.
The first time we've interviewed her on the podcast, but yes, she has been featured before.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and read you guys her bio again, because it's been a while.
We've talked about her a couple times too.
We have. Yeah.
Okay. But here she is.
Okay. Brit Kolo is the creator of the Marketing Personality Type Framework at marketingpersonalities.com and the host of the Marketing Personalities podcast. Through her framework, designed to match you with your best marketing strategy based on your Myers-Briggs personality type, she's here to shake up your approach to marketing and inspire you to grow your business in a feel-good way. Meet Brit and get ready to go deep, find your true self, and grow that business of yours without feeling fake and salesy at marketingpersonalities.com.
Brit is the best.
We vouch for her because we work with her.
Yeah, Brit is our marketing coach, in addition to being our friend. And also, for anyone who knows me well, you will know that I have probably told you at some point that the man I'm looking for is basically a male version of Brit. I've told her that multiple times. I was like, if only you were a man, I would marry you tomorrow. I love her so much. And I think she's got all the right stuff.
She does.
I can't wait for you guys to hear her. And then also, if you are an entrepreneur or you're entrepreneurially curious, it's so pays to go follow Brit on Instagram or, check out her site.
I love her approach because we've worked with marketing coaches and, business coaches in the past, and she just gets it. She just gets us. She doesn't try to make us do anything we don't want to do. Yeah. She finds strategies that are personalized, which you don't see a lot in the business world. So,
well, no, I mean, obviously we're on the same page, because what we're about and what she's about is doing what feels aligned with you and not doing it just because everyone else is telling you to do it that way. Which is hard
to do when you have your own business. And
Very hard.
She helps you stay the course. So major kudos to her.
Okay. Well, enjoy this conversation with me and Brit, and we will be back at the end. Hi, Brit.
Hey, Rach.
I love having you back after you were here a year and a half ago, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember interviewing me and Kristen for, I'll try to remember to put this episode in the show notes, but it was April 2019 for people who might want to go back and listen. You interviewed us for our year anniversary of podcasting.
Yeah, I remember doing the interview. I can't believe it was that long ago. That's kind of blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm. I know. We're getting close to the 3-year anniversary. I mean, it's been 2.5 years. So yeah.
Wow.
So I talk about you all the time. So you being here again shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody.
But this time I get to be a normal person, right?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Totally.
That feels good.
I mean, I think of you very much as an expert, whether or not, you're a normal person or an expert doesn't matter to me. I feel like you're going to be a little bit of both in this conversation. But what I want to talk to you about is very much like a normal person's experience. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, I've kind of teased this a lot because I've talked about it here and there in the episodes preceding this one. I want to talk about how you got to the point where you decided to take a job and then quit a job within the span of 3 months, which is very impressive.
I did that.
But I want to go back to, I want people to have some context. So I want to start with you started your own business multiple years ago, but I actually want to go back before that. What were you doing before you kind of in your Firestarter-ness decided to quit and start your own business?
So before I started my own business, I was working for it was a physical therapy company locally. They had, when I started with them, I was a wellness coach. So we're really going back, but I went to school for wellness and fitness. I thought I wanted to be a wellness coach for the rest of my life. And I got hired by this great company in 2012, right out of school. And at the time when I was hired, they had, I think, about 7 or 8 locations locally. And when I left 4 years later, they had 27 locations. So in 4 years, they had really ballooned, and I got to be a part of that. Very much a startup culture. We were all, no matter what level we were in the company, we were encouraged to be entrepreneurs in and of ourselves, have that entrepreneur mindset, think of the company as our own. And within that environment, it was an environment I had definitely never been in before. And within that environment, I not only found a real love and knack for marketing, even before it was my role within the company. Remember, I started as a wellness coach, then I was managing, and then I was doing client relation stuff. And then I finally found marketing, but it was within this culture of, hey, treat this business as your own and figure it out kind of stuff, that I found marketing. And I also found a really innate entrepreneurial spirit. I didn't realize it until I was in this company, but I had always had that spirit, which is what you would term my Firestarter-ness. I mean, I'm 100% Firestarter. The other types in the 4 types that you have just don't resonate with me at all. I just don't even understand them. I guess I understand them, but not. Yeah, I accept and I honor them, but I am not one of those people. So definitely a Firestarter. So before I started my business, that was kind of that Firestarter-ness was getting stoked. And then eventually I decided, hey, I've done a really great job with this company, helping their marketing department and really creating really great change within the organization. And I feel like I could probably do this for other organizations too. And at that point, I just knew internally that the answer wasn't to go find a different company to work for. It was to start my own company and get to work with essentially anybody I wanted to. And so that's how I started. And that's what I got to do.
I mean, I think that's the journey of a lot of Firestarters, is that you're like, wait a second, I could just be doing this for myself. Why am I doing this for somebody else? Which, a lot of tribe members would probably be like, I don't get that. And why wouldn't you want to do it for other people? But that's just the thing if you're a really independent, autonomous person. But you didn't create marketing personalities from the get-go. That was an evolution of what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
So what did you start out doing?
Yeah. So I started out thinking I was going to essentially build a marketing agency. So it was just me in the beginning, but my vision was to be doing the marketing, creating the strategy and then doing the marketing for these small-ish startup energy type of companies. And it was just going to be me in the beginning. And then as I grew, I would hire more people onto my team and build an agency that would do this, right? That was my model. I started doing that. That lasted about a year. And it was okay, but it was also kind of like I had 12 different bosses instead of one, because I had like a bunch of clients. And then I was also trying to build a team, and it didn't seem like it was the right path for me. And right around that time, I was approached by someone to, rather than do the marketing for them, they just wanted to be coached. They wanted to be, they wanted to sit down, strategize with me, and be told what to do. And I thought, well, that sounds fun. I mean, remember, I thought I wanted to be a wellness coach the rest of my life. So like the coaching thing has always, at the time, I didn't know that was a thing that you could go and do other than wellness coaching. But when this person approached me and said, hey, could you be my marketing coach? I thought, that sounds kind of interesting. I think I could probably rock that. So I started doing that with her. And then I got a couple more clients. And that was very much definitely more aligned with my energy and the business model that I wanted to run. It was leaner. It was more versatile. And so I kind of transitioned over to the coaching model, let go of the agency model. And it was within the coaching model, as I was coaching several, people every week, having lots of these clients, that was the atmosphere in which I uncovered the marketing personality types framework. Understanding that, there's something to it when an entrepreneur shows up feeling good about not only what they're offering, but how they're offering it, aka marketing. When they can do that and they don't feel fake and salesy, really great results come out of that. And that's when I started to marry the two ideas of marketing and personality types. If we can match an entrepreneur's marketing strategy with how they're naturally wired, with their personality type, my theory was, I bet they would feel really good about that, because they would be doing things that felt natural to them. And that natural feel-good energy would attract great results, the results that they were looking for, much more than some harebrained, really good strategy, but one that wasn't necessarily tied or tethered to that individual. And so that was when, this was to mid 2018, when the marketing personality type framework really got going, and I launched that. And since then, that's been the main focus. I've done some coaching here and there and working with individuals on the marketing personality type framework. But my main focus has been getting this idea and this framework into just more and more hands. So more and more entrepreneurs and even small companies with small marketing teams can understand, hey, there's something really cool that happens when you can show up and feel good about how you're marketing, not marketing out of all the shoulds and how Frank Kern tells you to do it or how Amy Porterfield tells you to do it or whatever, but you're doing it in ways because they feel good. Like there's something really awesome happening in that energy. How about you try it? So that's been my main focus for the past couple of years.
I mean, obviously it's no surprise why we get along. Because yeah, I mean, it's alignment. That's what you're all about is
right.
I want people to work in a way that feels aligned with them. And when
it really is. And I use the personality type assessment to bridge the gap because I could and I know that we're going to talk about alignment further on in this conversation. I could talk about marketing alignment all day long, but that's not going to land with people. But what I uncovered was I could use this personality assessment to kind of bridge the gap and help a client, a customer, an entrepreneur to see how they could create marketing alignment without calling it that and simply just calling it marketing personality types.
Yeah.
It's just more usable in that way.
So so you just said that was like 2 years ago that you really got going with marketing personalities. And yet about a year ago, it sounds to me like you were pretty burnt out. Or that you were kind of like questioning a lot of things. So a lot of people listening are probably thinking, well, she seemed to be really excited and she seemed to be really gung-ho about her idea. So then why would she end up in this place where she ended up in she ended up taking a job? Like that kind of like evolution is going to be really fascinating to people and me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll dive in. So as with any business venture, at least the ones that I've been involved in, there are ups and downs. What you see on the outside is not always what's happening on the inside. And I would probably venture to say that it's almost never what's happening on the inside, because we share what is helpful and typically positive, and there could be other things going on. So while I loved my idea and my idea seemed to be landing for a lot of different people, it was still slow going. It was still in its infant stages. And I would argue that it still is. I mean, this business has so much potential, and I feel like I'm still only just scratching the surface. But about a year ago, it was like summer 2019. I felt like I had really great momentum in the business. I felt super supported. And then I had a falling out with my support group and really one of my main business mentors. Really, no one's fault. It just, some stuff blew up, some cancel culture stuff happened online. And I ended up realizing how fragile this little business was and how I was pouring so much, all of my energy and effort and time into this little baby business that I realized was way more fragile than I had thought it was, because it was just this whole thing. And so it was an interesting time to kind of lose my support system and realize the fragility of this business that I thought was stronger than it really was. And that experience had me, by like November 2019, had me in a definite state of despair. I was questioning pretty much everything. I was kind of scraping by on the financial front. I knew that there was so much potential in this business, but I felt totally unsupported. And I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Something has to give, because I don't feel like I have much to go on right now. And that energy brought me to a place of, you and Kristen talk about outrageous openness, and outrageous openness is a beautiful place to be, especially when you choose it. But I feel like November 2019, I had come to a place of outrageous openness it's all I had left. Like it felt like I have no choice but to be open to anything right now, because I am so unsure of what I've been standing on for so long. It just felt like such a house of cards. And so I came to this place where I was like, you know what? I am so open to whatever is next, because I cannot sit here and try to figure out a next step. Like I felt so completely unable to do that. And so I made it ended up being quite large pact with the universe to just be completely open to whatever was next for me. And I completely let go of my expectations with what Marketing Personalities was going to do, what business I would continue to run or not continue to run. And some opportunities came up that led me to taking a job in the next couple of months. That's kind of the background to that.
I think you're making a very, very interesting point here that I hear a lot of my clients, like I see that there's a pattern. And I've also seen this in my own life too, where something starts to, like something comes in to shake you up. It makes things really difficult. Like you said, you lost a support system and it made you feel really vulnerable. Sometimes it's just like you've been trying for a year to make this business work and you aren't making money. Or, I mean, just so many things can just be challenging you. And you start to question the point of what you're doing and you start to doubt whether what you're doing is right or not. And sometimes the only way to get clear on that is to walk away. Like at least to take a step back, not necessarily burn it all down, because that's not what you did. But you stepped back and were like, all right, well, I don't know that I can, with my mind, figure out what's right for me, but I might need to step back long enough to let an answer come and be open to being guided.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I had sat here in my office for about a month and a half, just journaling and crying. And I'm not exaggerating, like literally a month and a half every day of just like starting my day with bawling my eyes out and journaling through my feelings and trying to figure out what my next step was. And being so unsure. Like I just didn't know if Marketing Personalities was really the thing that my energy was to be going into. And it just, like I had said before, it was just that point where I don't know. And I don't feel like I can force the knowing. And so therefore, I'm going to have to become open enough for new ideas, new opportunities, new something to come in. And that was the outrageous openness, surrender moment that tipped off a year of, some wild and crazy things that I in November of 2019, I never would have guessed would be happening in the next 12 months.
No expectations.
Right.
Okay, so you took the job. You, a full-fledged Firestarter,
Yep.
took a job, which again, no expectations. I love that. So tell me about what happened once you took the job.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I wasn't looking for a job. My answer in my moment of despair was not, okay, I need to go find a job. It was like, well, whatever needs to happen, I'm open to it. And long story short, a job opportunity landed in my lap and it just seemed so perfect. Like it just seemed so aligned, so right, so something I could do so well for a company that I already believed in and thought was doing really great work in the world. And so I took the job and I felt really good about that. I felt like when I took the job, all of the interviews went so easily. I mean, I felt so in my worth when I was in those interviews. I felt like what they were offering was aligned with what I felt was fair. And I felt like, you know what, this is something that I can genuinely sink my teeth into while, doing a little work with Marketing Personalities. I felt like at the time, I can keep up with the day-to-day Marketing Personalities work, keep the lights on essentially in the business and go see what this job opportunity has for me and serve this company that I believe in. I felt like I could do that really well. So everything was feeling really aligned when I accepted the job.
I had to ask you about that because I don't want people to think that you took the job out of like it was a reaction or something, because it wasn't. It was like actual alignment.
No.
It wasn't like fear. It was
it really, yeah.
Yeah, it was alignment. And so, however, the alignment didn't last that long, I don't think. So tell me about the kind of dissolution of the alignment.
Yeah. So, and a timeline might be helpful for listeners. So, my total state of despair was in November 2019. And then I do feel like I was in a pretty dark depression state until about February 2020. And I'm not new to depression. This was something that I knew what was happening, and I was just kind of going through the motions. And during that time was when the job opportunity came up, and I ended up accepting the job opportunity mid-March 2020. And I started at the very end of March 2020. So that's just to give a little bit of a timeline there. There was space in between, a lot of soul searching and continued signs, very, very clear signs. I mean, we could have an entire conversation about the signs that were showing me that this job was exactly meant for me. And so, which I totally trusted. And so started the job end of March. It was like March 30th. And, you know, I just jump in. I'm a fire starter. I have some intense energy. Won't go into it, but I jump right in. Let's go. Let's do this thing. I was managing marketing personalities just fine, you know, over on the sidelines, doing pretty well in the job, feeling really good. First month felt great. I was already jumping into big projects and feeling like I was producing and contributing exactly what I wanted to be contributing, and probably exceeding some expectations already. So feeling great about that. And then about just over a month after I was hired, after I started the job, I found out that I was pregnant for the first time. And that came as a surprise. I mean, like, yes, trying to get pregnant, but not knowing when that's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I just started this brand new job. You know, in the first 90 days of a job, you know, you're going to be working pretty hard no matter what's happening. Like you're going to, and then I find out I'm pregnant. And then, which is woohoo, exciting. And all of May 2020, which is about like the second month of employment, there were a ton of things going on in the company, in my job, so much to do. And it was great. Like, I was doing so much and I was working a lot and it felt good and I felt in flow. And then pregnancy, first trimester stuff started to happen and really hit me hard. And work started to become, there was still a lot to do. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do all of this because I feel so bad. I know everyone experiences pregnancy a little different. Well, a lot different. For me, first trimester, really the first 16 weeks were absolute hell. And it hasn't really gotten that much better since, but it's gotten a little bit better. And so by like mid-June of 2020, I was at my wit's end. I was like, I am keeping up with the work, but I am so miserable physically. And I started to, because I felt so physically miserable, I started to, for the first time, slow down just enough to consider what the heck I was doing. Like, what am I doing here? And like, what am I doing here in this job? Is this just like hormones? And I wrote about this on my blog too, because the patriarchy loves to blame shit on your hormones, listeners, if you haven't noticed. And so for a little while, I was like, oh, I'm just feeling like this because hormones, and I'm like sick and I'm physically not feeling great and pregnant, like whatever. So I'm blaming it on all this stuff. But then I really took some time to consider there's something else. Like there was something else happening within me that didn't feel right. And I after a few weeks of, again, this like intense introspection, have you noticed a trend here? Like I do this a lot, and this is why Rachel and I are friends. This intense introspection of like, what's actually going on here? Am I feeling just physically bad? And that's where the misalignment is coming from. Or is there something else off? And what I recognized was while the job opportunity that I had taken in March felt aligned at the time, it no longer felt aligned to me. Mostly what I really, this is hard, I find it hard to explain this succinctly, so I'll try. I recognize that while the job gave me an opportunity to pour my energy into something that I believed in, which I had lost that for a few months, right? Like I had been in that, just kind of going through the motions. Like I have all this intense energy as a Firestarter, Gemini, Scorpio, Aries. Like I got all this energy. I didn't really have a place to put it. And then all of a sudden this job comes along and I could put all my energy into it. It's like, yes, that feels great. And then I realized that while I was putting all my energy into this big bucket, I had lost parts of myself that had been really important to me for a long time, primarily time freedom and autonomy. Those were the two values that really started to come up for me as I did this introspection. And I realized, oh, okay, like I found a place to put my energy, but I completely let go of these other values that really help me tick, like really come together and make me me. And for the first time, I hadn't realized that before. And so I'm at the end of like June 2020 realizing, shoot, like not only do I not really have the energy to put into this position anymore, but the physical energy, but I'm also realizing that I've let go or dismissed or avoided these other values. And now that I realize I don't have them, I am not okay with it. Like, this is not okay. So by early July, I realized, well, those two values, again, time freedom and autonomy, those two things are not going to be things that I get in this role at this company. They just simply aren't. That wasn't part of the deal because I didn't make them part of the deal in the beginning. And I realized that while the job was totally aligned in the beginning from what I could see, it wasn't anymore. And I got to make a choice of, do I continue in this role, pregnant or not? I mean, it didn't, that really had nothing to do with it. It was great timing because it made me slow down and do some introspective work. But pregnant or not, like, am I going to continue in this role knowing that a couple of my most important values are being completely trampled on? Or do I let go of this role and create a path that aligns with all of my most important values that I feel like I can put all of my energy into? Because again, that's a big part for me. And ultimately, I chose to let go of the role, let go of the job, let go of the security and the paycheck and all that stuff. Again, right? I've second time quitting my job and carve my own path again. So I could realign with those really important values to me.
All right. So many questions. Well, that I feel like I already have the answers to, but that I know other people are going to be asking. I feel like, so Kristen and I recorded an episode about this a little while ago, a few months ago. I'll remind people in the show notes when it was exactly, but it was about trusting your intuition even when it doesn't really make sense. And this is like such a spot on example of that, you trusted your intuition when you took this job. And then like, as soon as it didn't feel aligned anymore, you were ready to bounce. But a lot of people would be asking right now, well, was your intuition right in the first place to take this job? So how do you think about that now?
I 100% believe that my intuition was right. I was hearing my intuition correctly when I took the job, and I was hearing my intuition correctly when I left the job. To me, what would come up, and I had a little bit of shadow around this when I was making this decision, because I thought, I'm going to make this decision because it feels like the right move for me. And I also recognize that a number of people who I value and respect and care about, they might not understand this at all. Because from a logical standpoint, the mind and the ego have these rules around, how long you stay at a job. I mean, of course, like our parents' age people, they think you stay at a job for at least 40 years. Millennials, they're like, yeah, like a year to two, like 1 to 2 years is probably, that's, but then here I am 3 months later being like, oh, no, actually. So that can really come into conflict with what our mind thinks a job span should look like. But I recognized that right away. And that didn't matter to me at all. Because I still felt like I was aligned. Now I'm not. I get to choose whether I get to choose continued misalignment or renewed alignment. So which one am I going to choose? That, to me, that's what mattered. Much more than, was I wrong before? Was my intuition wrong? Like that didn't come up for me.
I think that some people might be baffled by your confidence. I do want to let them know you're an Enneagram type 8. So people pleasing is not like a high thing on your list of problems.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yes, I am an Enneagram 8, wing 9. So I can heed to others' opinions. Like it is in me a little,
somewhere in there,
but not much. I can't say that I struggle with people pleasing. It's usually when I make a big decision, which I do tend to make a lot of them, because I pivot a lot, man. Like I'm not afraid to take the risk, the big move. It's just my tendency. When you look back at my timeline, I just do tend to do that. But as I make those pivots and changes, I do consider, okay, how do I expect people, not everyone, I don't go there, but like the most important people in my life, how do I expect them to react to this? And what might I do to mitigate their most intense fears for me? Because that's where it all stems from. My most important people are my parents, my husband, some of my closest friends. Like, what are they going to think about this? And it's not me asking that question out of like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it because they won't understand or they'll judge me poorly or whatever. It's more like, what might they, let me take kind of their side and think about what are they going to see in this situation, and what can I do preemptively to help them transition with me, right? I feel like that's maybe my 9 wing coming out. Like I don't want to completely leave them in the dust when I make these big decisions and pivots, because that would just alienate them. I'm also not going to hold myself back just because they might not understand right away.
I love the way you said that like it's basic. Like you're like, oh, maybe that's a type 9 thing. I actually think it's strategic. Like I recognize that thinking in you because I do the same thing, which is it's not so much people pleasing as it is, okay, I'm going to like think ahead and figure out, well, what are they going to say? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to mitigate that by like helping them get on board with my decision. Like it's a persuasive kind of strategic maneuver, which is useful.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And it's also, I have to be clear, when I go into those conversations, it's very much like, it's not me just assuming that they're going to react that way. And I've learned how to do this well, because I didn't always do this well. But I've learned over time that it's helpful to go in with not trying to fix the problem that I assume they're having, but more of like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm a little fearful that you're going to respond this way. Like, tell me how you actually feel about it, right? Like, what's actually going on? And then we can have a conversation from there. I can really screw things up if I assume too much. So I do strategize a little bit. And then I also definitely give them space to tell me what's actually going on in their head. Because sometimes what's actually going on in their head is not the same as what I've built it up to be. But
totally.
In the end, I've cared for the people that I want to care for and continued to honor my alignment.
So what about the people? Okay, so you're not a people pleaser, but I don't want people to think that means that you just quit this job and like basically flipped it the bird and everyone in it and just walked away. Like, you liked and respected everyone on your team. And I don't think that, you're not an unfeeling person. You obviously like didn't want to disappoint them, but this is why you're one of my favorite people and why I'm like, I just feel like you're a soul sister of mine in particular, is that you're that kind of person who would rather disappoint everyone else than disappoint herself, which I think is like the hallmark of like, it's one of the hallmarks of strength, is being willing to let down everyone else, but not being willing to let down yourself. But it doesn't mean that you don't feel or have empathy or understand why the people around you might be disappointed. So how did you handle or like kind of contextualize for yourself their disappointment? Because I know that they were disappointed.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you've asked this question, because I recognize it could be from the outside, it could be misconstrued. My actions could feel, I don't know what you would label it, but maybe selfish.
I think some people could be thinking that.
Yeah, right. And of course, when especially with this move in general of leaving the job, there were some people that I cared about on the team that I thought, man, they might see this as pretty selfish because I come in like a lightning bolt and then I'm gone. And so that was definitely something that I considered. And I'm grateful that you've asked the question to give airtime to the fact that it's not that I'm making these decisions selfishly. I think there's a difference between selfishness and self-sustaining. Like, is this selfish or is it self-sustaining? And my alignment moves are always self-sustaining. And there's a really interesting difference, not one that I know that I can articulate, but there is a difference. And so when I went into this, when I had decided, I had made the decision, like, this role is no longer where I can best serve, because my energy, my heart, I'm not in it anymore. I realize my misalignment. And therefore, even if I were to stay, I wouldn't be doing the team the service that I had promised them. That in and of itself is an integrity issue for me. That's another thing. And if you've spent any kind of time with me, you know that I do what I say I'm going to do. And if I literally can't, I will make it right. Like, I won't find a way to make it right. And so going into these conversations with these people, that you're right. Like, I really did. We had only spent a few months together, but I had come to really care about them. I had felt like I had bonded with all of the people on my team in a very unique way. And I was already feeling how some of the people on the team were kind of looking up to me and seeing me as like a leader for them. And there was that time where I considered, like, ooh, this could be a blow for them. Like, this could really disappoint them. This could alienate them. This could whatever. And then I had to come back to remembering that they are responsible for how they react to this. I am not responsible to how they react to this at all. Like, I'm at the end of the day, I can try to mitigate it, issues and negativity and total fallouts and that. But at the end of the day, they're going to react the way they react, which really has nothing to do with me. And so what I can control and what I do feel responsible for is how I communicate this decision that I am in control of. Whether they understand that or not, again, not my responsibility, although I wish I could control that. I can't. So I went into these conversations and I had a lot of them over the course of a couple weeks, and not only with my boss, but pretty much everybody on my team. I had honest, open conversations about where this decision came from. And I allowed them to ask me questions about it. And I allowed them to ask or request, is there anything that I can do in my last couple of weeks here that would set you up for greater success? Like, I still poured into them while I could. And then I let them be, because we're all adults here. I'm not in the education field with 4-year-olds or 14-year-olds. I work with adults. And so we get to make adult decisions every day. And probably one of the most beautiful things that came out of this, and this happens every time I choose alignment, every time. And I bet this has happened for you too, Rachel. When you make an alignment move like that, especially one that doesn't necessarily line up with typical egoic logic, it inspires people. And it encourages other people to choose alignment as well. Because I'm not the only one that found themselves in a place of misalignment. A lot of people are feeling misaligned right now. And sometimes it's being able to watch someone else choose their own alignment that gives them the confidence, the power, the space to choose their own. And I saw that come out of these conversations as well, which was gratifying. It didn't have to happen like that, but it was really cool to see. So I feel like I moved through it with grace and a healthy level of detachment too.
This is like a masterclass in Untamed, which is the best book. And Kristen and I did an episode on that back in May. So I'll also remind you about that in the show notes. But like, that's when you free yourself, other people get free too. And it sounds dramatic to be like you freed yourself, but really that's what it is. Like, when you're not living in alignment, you're not free. You're feeling trapped. If you had stayed, the only reason would have been because you felt bad. Because it's what other people wanted, not what you wanted. And in doing that, you would not have been creating a win-win. Exactly. And what's funny is that knowing some of these people on your team and knowing what happened next, I know that they attracted someone to fill the position you left, who's who's like you in many ways, but is more suited to that role and is more of a tribe member than a Firestarter, or at least has enough of that energy that it's, that's more of a fit. And so again, you create a win-win when you're willing to live in alignment, even when it means walking away from something after only 3 months.
And you know what? And that's such a good point. And we've talked about this before. But as I was going through this, I mean, you knew what I was kind of wrestling with and deciding on. And I had shared in that time, it was like a 3-week period where I'm like, I really kind of feel like I need to leave. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. And I felt so strongly that while I understood that to recruit me, it took a long time. The company that had hired me, it had taken them a long time to get me on board. They had been hiring for this position for a long time. And it felt like, oh my gosh, we finally found the girl. Yes, it was great. And now she's going to leave. And it's like, oh shoot, we got to start the hiring process again. And last time it took forever. And that I knew that, but I also felt so strongly that by moving out of this position, this role that I had been hired for, the right person for that role was already on their way. There was someone out there that was currently manifesting this role for themselves. And all I needed to do for her was step out of the way. Like I knew that so viscerally. And I shared that with my manager at the time too. I was like, you can take this however you want, but I really, really intuitively feel like your next person, the person that's going to fill this role, is so close. She's manifesting this for herself right now. And I got to step out so she can have it. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, like a month later, it was like, dang, you were right. Like she was right there, and it's great. And so
maybe not even. I mean, know. Yeah, it was really quick. But it was really quick.
We all have a choice. We can choose misalignment or alignment every damn day. And I do feel like choosing misalignment is more selfish than alignment. Because when you choose misalignment, you could be blocking someone else's opportunity. That's not cool.
Yep. That's kind of selfish.
Yeah. Nobody wins.
So can we bring this on home too? Because I want to bring this full circle, because you quit, then you went back to the business that previously, less than a year earlier, you'd been very lost about.
Yeah.
So what did you find when you came back?
I had a renewed sense of confidence and energy for the business. Confidence in that I had just invested 3 months of my time in this other company doing whatever they needed me to do in their marketing department. And remembering that, damn, I'm like really freaking good at this stuff. And when you're an entrepreneur, if you're not an entrepreneur, you might be like, what? Duh, like you were hired. Aren't you good at what you do? But if you're an entrepreneur and you work primarily alone, and yeah, you like sell your stuff and everything, but you don't get regular feedback about your performance, it is so, I didn't realize this when it was happening. I realize it now. It is so easy to just kind of think like, I don't know if I'm good at this or not. Like, I think I am, but I don't really know. But then I had been in that role for 3 months. I was getting feedback constantly. And I remembered, yeah, I'm like really good at this. Like, this is not just something I'm interested in. It's something I'm genuinely skilled at. And that confidence gave me a huge boost in energy for the project that is Marketing Personalities. And so I stepped back into the business with that confidence, with that energy. Thankfully, around that time, pregnancy wasn't completely kicking my butt. So that was nice. That was a nice little hiatus. And so, yeah, I stepped back in with a new sense of openness toward it. And I very much still feel that way with my business. I am so much more open than I was a year ago as it relates to Marketing Personalities. I've intentionally not pigeonholed myself into doing it a certain way, moving forward with a ton of structure. I'm much more open, and I'm letting it flow as it needs to, which feels great. Because I think it's more of what my soul wants and needs from a body of work. That's really how I see it. Yes, it's a business, but it's also a body of work that I'm choosing every day to either pour into or not. And so my soul feels more aligned with that openness. And my body also really likes that too, because right now I really need to be open and not have too many expectations around what I will and will not do in the future, because pregnancy continues to just wipe me out sometimes. And I'm really glad that I figured out this openness thing just before pregnancy came in, because, oh man, I'd be struggling so much more if I wasn't this open.
The thing that kept coming to my mind visually as you were talking was that this is why the hero's journey is a circle. It's because you leave home as like an adolescent, so to speak, in the hero's journey. And you go through all these trials and tribulations, and you test your mettle, and you go through like this dark night of the soul, absolutely. And then you come home and home is the same, but because it's the same, you can see how much you've changed. And that's what your business, that's what coming home to your business was. It was like an opportunity to see how much you've changed and how sometimes, this is such a good point, sometimes it's not that there's a problem with the business or the marriage maybe, or the thing, whatever thing that you're hung up on. It might be more of an internal like issue with you. Like, I'm lost, I'm confused, I'm unsure of myself, and I need to go get clear on that. And then I need to come back to this thing. And when I come back to it, because I'm different, I'll be able to see it clearly. And maybe it's actually exactly right for me. I just needed to change how I see it and how I process and all of this so that I can experience it differently. Or maybe I come back to it and it was super crystal clear that it wasn't right. But either way, because you had no expectations, you were going to be okay with whatever you came back to and however you experienced it after that.
Yeah. Oh man. And I feel like most of the time, if not all the time, that's true, in that of course, it's easy to blame the thing that feels wrong. And we also have to recognize that the feeling of wrongness, the feeling of whatever, is coming from you. You are producing that. That's you're creating the reality that you're living. So yeah, go explore that. Whether it takes years or a couple months or a couple weeks or a couple hours, or that exploration, that cycle, no matter how long it takes, will undoubtedly change your life, because it's going to change your world. It's going to change how you see your life and your world. That's definitely the type of thing that I've been on, type of a cycle I've been in. And I feel myself, it doesn't end either, which is great. For me, I'm like, I love the fact that we never stop growing and we never stop finding things to go on a journey with and understand in a different way and gain a new perspective. And I understand that exhausts some people, but for me, that's why I'm here. I feel like that's why I'm here on earth, is to experience those cycles over and over and over. And now, we're in fall 2020. I feel like I'm right back at the beginning and I'm going to start a new one. Here we go again, because everything is always changing and I thrive in that. I think that's why I make big changes and big pivots. I thrive more in that learning experience and that exploration than I do at any certain set point. So as I step into, I don't know, you could choose the milestone, 3rd trimester, new year, this new iteration of my business. Here we go again, which, yay. Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. You're an ENFJ, right?
Yes.
You kind of ride the line between I and E?
Yes, I ride the line.
So ENFJ, protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
So, right?
Hero's
That's
journey.
kind of like the way that we think of them. Well, just like they love the story. Like they're inherent storytellers. And so I think there's something really interesting about, and as an INFJ, like obviously I love a good story. I love to live in a fantasy world, would prefer to live in all of the fantasy worlds I've read about rather than this one, to be honest. But there's an appreciation for like the inherent story and plot of your life that makes you have a more, that's interesting take on things that happen, as opposed to oh my gosh, why is this happening to me take.
Yeah.
And then you have perspective when you see it from the storyteller, perspective, because like you're not seeing other people as the victim to your choices.
Exactly.
You're seeing it as, this is plot development for them too. This is character development for all of us.
Right.
And, I don't actually have so much of an ego that I think that me making a decision that's aligned with me is going to ruin anyone else's life.
Right. I mean, it's cliche, and I'm still going to say it. Nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you.
Yeah.
And that's true in a fictional story and in the story of your life, period. So ride that. Don't rail against. There's no point in railing against that. Like, ride it. See what happens.
Well, this couldn't have been a better conversation if I tried to manufacture it.
It felt really good.
I didn't
this felt
need to.
Extremely therapeutic. I mean, I've talked about this elsewhere, but this felt great.
Well, we put it in the storyteller's arc, right? You had to start at the beginning and work your way to the end of this particular story. And there's a lot of catharsis in a good story. So as we wrap up, where can people find you? How would you like them to check you out?
So everything that I do online is at marketingpersonalities.com. I am in a love-hate relationship with social media currently, and I have been for a while. And so, I don't know. You may or may not hear back from me if you reach out to me on social media, but you can definitely email me if you really want to get into one-on-one touch. And my email is brit@marketingpersonalities.com.
I really recommend, all of my clients who are entrepreneurially inclined, I tell them to check out your work because if you know your Myers-Briggs type, it's so easy. If you don't, just go to 16 personalities.com, take the Myers-Briggs, get clear on, it's free, take it. Then go to marketingpersonalities.com and download Brit's report. And then you can see, according to my Myers-Briggs type, how is the best way for me to be marketing myself and what's aligned with me and what do I have permission to just not do because it's just never going to be my thing. And I think that's the way that, again, that's what Kristen and I do too with passion profiles. Like, you're going to be living in alignment or you're going to be miserable, and that's kind of your choice. So can we just go with alignment, please?
Yeah. You get to choose. And there are tools out there to help you find that. If you're unsure, if you're still kind of getting started and kind of new to listening to your intuition, and these tools like Myers-Briggs, marketing personality types, Enneagram, the passion profile quiz, these tools can help you fine tune that. They're not the end all be all. I'm sure you would agree, Rachel. Like they're never the end all be all, but they can fine tune that inner voice that's calling you to your greatness. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're hoping to use a tool like that, especially as it relates to your marketing, come on over. That's why we're there.
Okay. Brit, I love you. Should go without saying, but I just think you're the best. And I appreciate this so much. And I can't wait to hear what people say. And I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Rachel.
Of course. Bye.
So for all of our psychology nerd friends out there, because Rachel and I are pretty nerdy when it comes to this sort of thing.
Pretty big.
You're going to be in for a treat next week. We're really having a theme of the week, which is deep dive into some deep psychological concepts.
Okay. I thought you were going to go full on and say trauma because that's what we're talking about. And which I love that you're calling that a treat. It's a real treat. We're writing a whole book about trauma, guys. Get ready.
Well, also looking at the Magic 8 Ball. All of it together is about, like, if you're someone... No, you're right. The content, not always a treat.
Not a treat.
Very challenging to read sometimes.
How interesting and helpful it is, a treat.
Yes. And for people who are really, really interested in why people do what they do, human behavior.
Why are we all so effed up?
Yeah, that's what we're getting into next week. We kind of have a theme. So 2 episodes about that. One is a Magic 8 Ball that we're going to bring back. One is a book club. You guys, anyone who likes book club, this is going to be a different kind of book club than we've done before.
It might be very long or broken into 2 episodes or like 2 parts because it's going to be really long, I'm thinking. I should have told them at the beginning of this month and I forgot. I was going to tell them during the Dear Rachel at the first Friday of the month what book we were reading, and I just totally forgot.
You're not going to be able to read this one by Friday.
No.
Just know that. It's very long.
We're reading The Body Keeps the Score. If you want to check it out, do.
Very dense. So if you're someone who likes the idea of reading almost like a psychology textbook.
It almost is. Yes.
Yeah, go for it. If not, you're going to get a lot out of our conversation.
You're just going to get the Cliff Notes version on Friday.
Yeah, the highlights.
Okay, so we'll be back on Tuesday with a Magic 8 Ball and next Friday with a very large bonus book club episode.
See you then.